welcome to Pintar Uang, which is part of the FinLab podcast series. 那我们今天邀请了谁呢？
一位经验丰富的财务顾问。
那我们播客的主题是什么呢？
跟着亚太财务经理过一天，欢迎收听。
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. My name is Pranav, a university student from Venus International, joined by my co-hosts Rico.
Stephanie.
Nancy.
And in today's episode, we're going to be very insightful and dive into a day in the life of an APAC wealth advisor. So you might imagine that wealth advisors as people being in suits, helping billionaires move money around, but in reality, they're helping a wide range of clients, from young professionals and families to business owners. They help build financial security and make smart money decisions across Asia Pacific. To help us understand what it's really like, we're joined today by Mr. Andre Modigdo, a seasoned wealth advisor and managing partner at Oriana Private Wealth, a firm with a strong presence across the Asia Pacific region. Andre holds a certified wealth manager designation and is a certified financial planner, certified by the Financial Advice Association Australia. He also currently serves as an advisor for the CWMA Indonesia chapter. With over 2 decades of experience, Andre has helped clients navigate complex financial decisions and build long-term strategies for wealth preservation and growth. Welcome to our podcast, Andre.
Hey, thanks, Pranav. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So before we get into it, I actually knew that you're the cousin of Pike's son, right? And I just want to give a big shout out to Pike's son because he's always very nice to us and gives us good grades. So give me yeah. Thank you, Pike's son. Yeah. So let's just jump right in. Can you walk us through a typical day in your life as a wealth advisor? What does your morning usually look like, and what kind of clients do you deal with?
Okay, thank you. It's pretty normal. I mean, thank you for the introduction. You make me sound really good. I hope this is recorded. In terms of what I do, right? I think just taking a bit of a step back, right? When you say a wealth advisor, it really is around the relationship with the client, right? So it comes down to what the client's needs is really the drivers of what we do, right? But I think in terms of what a daily snapshot looks like, it will be around again client meetings, investment briefs, more new business pipeline, etc., etc. I think just a step back in terms of what I actually do, right, Pranav, in terms of if the elevator speech, if you like, of what I do, right? So it really is in terms of helping people or clients achieve their financial goals, right? Very, very high level, but that also entails things such as wealth creation, wealth protection, wealth generation, as well as wealth transfer that I'm keen to talk to you guys, especially those of you that are interested in this particular field, because at the end of the day, right, I mean, you guys are what, late teens, early 20s, around that?
Yeah.
Probably
Most of us, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. So what's going to happen, right? And what's already been happening is that there's this thing called the wealth transfer, a wealth generational transfer. So people of Generation X, right, like Kai-chan and people like that, it's their age group, if you like, is now starting to transfer wealth to their children or people on the next generation. And we're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about 5.4 trillion US dollars, right? So which is the GDP of ASEAN, if you like, well, not just one country, but with a few countries, right? Just to give you some perspective in terms of how does a wealth advisor, what is the opportunities for people going into the wealth advisory type of role. So there is a lot of scope, if you like, for people that has the right skill set to help in that transfer and be remunerated very handsomely. But I digress. Coming back to what I actually do day to day, it's really around just making sure that all my clients. So as a wealth advisor, I hold around, I have about 50 clients around the Asia Pacific region, mostly in Australia, which I was originated from, and the other half is really from in Singapore, Hong Kong, and parts of Asia as well. So traveling is a thing I do as well. So my role every day is just making sure that I have touch points with all my clients, making sure that they're in they actually know exactly what their portfolio is doing and if there's any other, wealth-based needs that I can look after for them. That includes things such as managing my calendar, which is very, very important. The other part is also making sure that it is a business at the end of the day, making sure that there are prospects and new business opportunities that I can explore further. I hope that gives you a bit of a feel of what the day looks like. But practically in Hong Kong anyway, you guys been to Hong Kong, right?
Of course.
So, but if you haven't, let me know when you're around. I can show you around. It's pretty cool. But it is very, very condensed. It's a typical Asian city, right? So it's at the moment it's very hot. It's in terms of a daily, what my daily regime is. I start very early, have lunch around 12, then do my afternoon prayers, etc. And then by around 6 o'clock, I'm back at home. But being a wealth advisor, you're online, if you like, 24/7, right? Because of the time differences and because of where your clients are at the moment. So it's pretty much a full-time job, literally, but the office hours is pretty normal.
So with that being said, what made you decide to go to Hong Kong and work there?
Okay, a few things. One, it's I was working in Sydney, Australia for a long time as a wealth advisor, and that's I actually met Kai-chan when he was doing his PhD there. I think and at around 2019 there was a big shift in the compliance regulations in Australia, which meant that the company or the bank that I worked in sold the wealth advisory component of their business, and at that point, I was more looking at opportunities in Asia. The reason being is, I've got family back in Indonesia. My wife at that stage really also wanted to, travel outside Australia. Australia is far away, right? It's like 9 hours from here, so it's pretty far to try to gain any Asian exposure, if you like. So fortunately, this role came up in terms of having an advisor that has an Australian background. Being able to advise expatriates mainly in this region. So I put my hand up and, the rest is history, right?
So like more on the technical side, because we probably have a lot of viewers out there that are not in the finance sector. So can you tell us what wealth management really is about? Because we must have heard the phrase that wealth management is how to stay rich while investing and trading. While investing and trading is how to get rich. What do you think about that?
So really, Pranav, and it's a very good question. You'd be surprised to know that wealth management is more about relationships rather than finances itself. It's about giving clients clarity of what their financial goals are and how to achieve it. And it's also giving them more peace of mind, if you like. The fact that A, they will be able to achieve their financial objectives, and B, they and their family can be protected while they get there. So, if you look at it, wealth management really is an all-encompassing type of role, because we're not just talking about the investing side of things. It is a very important part of it, don't get me wrong, but creating wealth should only just be a part of the journey. The other part of the journey is really protecting that wealth. I mean, it's all well and good that you create a lot of wealth, but if you cross the road here in Hong Kong, get hit by one of those minibuses, there's no point, right? So what you'd want to make sure is that you have a plan to make sure that if you do cross the road in Hong Kong and get hit by a bus, your family is protected. And how do we do that? You're looking at insurance solutions, you're looking at estate planning solutions, etc. The other part really is, especially for the older clients, is how do you transfer that wealth to the people that you want with the least cost, right? So you've built generational wealth, if you like. One of the challenges that people have is what happens next, right? What happens to this asset when you are not around anymore? So that's also a part of the wealth journey, if you like. So it's quite an all-encompassing type of learning, if you like, but it's all based on relationships, right? I can provide people with the best investment solutions, but if they don't like me, they're not going to do it. That's pretty much the reality, right? So for those of you that are looking at wealth management or anything in finance, really, if you think about it, right, you'd really want to be upskill yourself from a relationship perspective as well. The old adage, it's not always IQ, it's EQ as well, right?
You mentioned that wealth management is more about the relationship between you and your clients and their family goals. I'm sure you have 50, you mentioned 50 clients, correct? Yeah, that's
50.
quite a lot. How do you manage your client engagement? Because maybe you have clients that ask too much, or clients that don't know what they want, or clients that have questionable personalities. How do you manage those kinds of client engagement situations?
That's very good. That's a very good question. It's Tico, was it?
Fico. Oh, my name is Fico.
Tico, T. Okay, cool. That's a very good question, right? So really and this is the thing that I'm quite passionate about, is that with wealth management, right? It all really boils down to how we actually define the goals of those clients, right? So rather than talking about or discussing with the clients, how can we get the best return, or what's the best investment, or what's the market's doing. It's really about making sure that you understand very clearly what their goals are. So it's this thing called the goals-based investing. So rather than looking at alpha returns or looking at higher yield or capital growth, you're more looking at how are, that's all well and good, but how are they going to try to achieve the goals or the objectives that the client has in place. You'll find very quickly that if you turn the discussion around to more of their goals of their clients, a lot of that those soft skill concerns that you talked about in terms of clients having different clients have different communication skills. putting it nicely. Even there, sometimes client has English as their second language, right? So there's a lot of things that's missed in translation. However, achieving being able to really translate their goals and objectives and having that as the center of discussion, that more than likely, or more often than not for me anyway, is a good conduit, making sure that everyone is on board and behaves accordingly, if you like.
I see. You mentioned about clients' goals. Perhaps since you work in the APAC region, do you see any type of common trend there is in wealth management in this area, and is it perhaps different from other regions that you've seen or experienced?
That's a good question. So I think there's two parts of that question, right? The first is in terms of how do people view their financial goals, right? And the second piece is really more of a cultural piece, if you like. My background, if you like, is I live and worked in Australia for a long time, right? So that could really be represent more of a Western type of culture, right? Western type of thinking, in terms of everything is very so kalau the Indonesian phrase is nggak ada basa-basi, right? So you don't, there's none of these niceties that's required, right? So if your goals is A, B, and C, that's all you talk about, type of thing. If the market's down, you actually tell them that the market's down. So it's very direct in terms of the approach, right? And that goes into their expectations of you in terms of what financial goals you can help them with. So it's very numbers based. They'll be saying something like, Andre, at age 65, I want to have an income of 100,000 US per year. How do I achieve that? So it's very to use your power lines, it's more technical in terms of the goals itself. While in Asia, what I find is that there's a lot of family component to that goal, right? So the goal is more like I want to make sure that my kids can enjoy the fruits of my labor, type of thing. So if I'm not around, the business can actually go to the right hands. So it's very it's not as quantifiable, right? And it's something like, if anything happens to me, I want to make sure that my wife or my husband, for that matter, is able to meet the mortgage repayment. So in Asia, it's probably more, how can I put it? It's more qualitative rather than quantitative, if that makes sense. So does that answer your question in terms of the slight differences in how they look at financial goals?